All right. So what's up, Dave? How you doing, brother?
What's good, D man? I'm doing great, man. Happy to be on the pod today.
Dude, happy to have you on the pod. I really appreciate it. I know you're extremely busy, especially with the book launch going, The Neighborhood Kid. I was able to take a few reads, listen while Canelo was getting his ass beat. No, but no, very, it's a great book. As from someone that, you know, very tough for me to get into a book. I was captivated right away. I resonated with it. From the start, you kind of, make the point that it's not a regular book, not a regular memoir. You're going to include some of your authenticity into it. And I have nothing but positive things to say. Uh, how are you feeling, after the launch?
I feel smooth, man. I'm glad you said that because uh, the book has to be in certain category so they can define like what kind of book is it? Is it a memoir, a biography, or this and that? And so I had to put it was a memoir, but really it's a social impact read combined with like self-discovery, and that's the coming of age component to it. And I never like having to put it into one category because it aligned it all. And the only reason why I used my story as part of it is because I wanted someone to relate their journey to it and see their trials and everything that they're going through and how it relates to them growing up and figuring out who they are. So that's why it's, I always say it's a social impact read, it's a self-help book, and it is a coming of age more. And it's like combined into one for changing your neighborhood, changing your barrio. And I'm glad it's finally out. It is harder than I thought, man. I'll be honest. Everyone knows like writing a book is not easy because if it was, everyone would just be putting out books like crazy, but it was harder, harder than I really expected, way harder. And it's way different than starting a nonprofit, man. In the nonprofit, you start a nonprofit, you're with community, you're out there in the neighborhood and grassroots, talking to people, making programs and collaborations. With the book, there's a lot of isolation, and you're behind that laptop, and you're just going in on a story, and you're lifting up a rock that hasn't been moved in some time, and you're seeing things under the rock, and you're like, ah, damn, look at this and look at that, and you're putting it on paper. There's things I talk about on there that I've never talked about, and it was just putting the story all together. So I am glad it's done because it took forever, and it felt like it was almost like a bottomless pit sometimes. The more you wrote down, the more you wanted like, to refine it, edit it, and it can always get better. But then sometimes you have to decide like at what point am I having the reverse effect? At what point am I making the book worse in a sense? So after a year and a half, I was like, all right, this is it. This is the piece. And I'm glad it's all finished.
Dude, I bet, especially as you mentioned, having to put it in a category, having to, I bet you did a bunch of rewrites as well, right? They must have done a bunch of copies. But to let the viewers, the listeners, a little bit about you. So, again, you're one of the most incredible guys I've ever met. Very intelligent. I met you at Chico State in the Shasta 3 dorms. Shout out.
Gosh,
And
three.
Shasta three. But dude, ever since I met you, you were I they always talk about the Kobe stories, how when people were going out, Kobe was working out, he was mentally focused, just he had fun, but definitely had the eyes on the prize, Always had a book in your hand when I saw you. But dude, you've done some incredible things after college as well. You started that nonprofit, which was super incredible. You also were in the politics game. So, after achieving and, changing so many lives already, what kind of made you, when did that book come to mind? When did you start thinking about, hey, I should put this on paper?
The first initial ideas probably happened about 10 years ago. And when I first started thinking like, okay, this should be something where I pass the baton and I share a message and I document my journey. And if I document it, I can publicize it. You let people know everything I went through to do the things we need to do in the neighborhood. That was the initial ideas. And I was always fond of authors and people who wrote books and put put a story together on paper, it's way different. And I think it's way harder to captivate an audience from just paper. That's all they're doing. They're just reading that. There's that one stimulus, that paper and that text. So you have to find a way to get that reader engaged through the sentence structure, through the story, the imagery that you're putting in and having them imagine about. And so I always wanted to give it a try myself. And and in college and everything, we read all these books and these textbooks, and I thought, why can't I make something like this? Why can't I put a book together? And all these other people are telling me how to live or how to think. Well, why shouldn't I create my own framework? And that was always the idea. And then it didn't really become real from idea to actual decision to do it. Like I'm going to do it. I'm going to give myself this time frame because ideas are great. They're cute. But if you don't actually make a decision to do something, it doesn't go anywhere. I talk about that in the book too. But the decision came about a couple years ago, just a couple years ago, where I felt that I had this message to share with the neighborhood and I felt responsible to share it. And if I was keeping a hold of all information I gained from all the programming and campaigning and organizing that we did, then I would be gatekeeping information from the next generation. And so I felt responsible to share that message before I moved on to anything else. And there's times where I didn't really want to write the book throughout the journey of writing, and I was just like, man, forget this. I don't really want to do this. I can do so many other things, so many other opportunities I got. But then I was like, nah, it don't matter. It don't matter what you want right now, man. This is your responsibility. You have to write this down. And I know that I can never meet with every young person in the neighborhood. Never. There's too many people. And then outside the neighborhood too, like and other cities and other states and countries, wherever it is. You can never meet with them all. You can never mentor them all. And I always thought how you start a program, you mentor 12 youth, and you do great work, and it's so cool. And those 12 youth do this and do that, and hopefully they help change the neighborhood too. With that said, there's so many other young people out there. And I was like, how do I share a message and mentor them without having to need to meet with all of them? How do I scale this knowledge and mentorship and engagement in a different way? And I thought it was going to be through my own book in a sense that, okay, I'm gonna write a book and I can't meet with everyone, but I can always just hand them the book and just give them the book, like tap in. It's like my guy Gabe always says to this book and all the knowledge in there, it's all put into one and it's condensed and concise. And it's a playbook wrapped in storytelling. And it's something that can live on beyond me, regardless of it. And also, when I worked with a lot of young people, I was always looking for what's the right book? What can I find the right book? And we did do a lot of different books, a lot of different authors that were great, and we enjoyed it, and the books were awesome. But none of them kind of all filled all the check boxes that I had of what we needed to talk to young people about in their journey, or what I wish people talked to me about in their story. And so I was like, I can just put one together, and then this is the book that they can use for their curriculum or for their free time when they're going about it. If I had neighborhood kid and I was 18, man, I'd be way different today. This would be crazy. I would be another level, and I would have made so many mistakes that I made from that realm. So it's our job to pass on all this wisdom.
Dude, that I think you're totally correct, totally right, and the way you framed it as well as a playbook, as a framework, as a not just a memoir, but something that future generations could use. And you mentioned the steps of having a good circle, parents' involvement. What kind of the framework, what someone needs to at least, feel motivated enough to do something. You included those steps in the book, and I completely agree. What other than, starting your own nonprofit, working in politics and a winning campaign, what other motivations did you have? As you mentioned, we didn't have, especially because, both you and I were Latino Americans, Chicanos, definitely had a lot of books assigned to us, but not many books assigned to us that we resonated with. So, what other motivations did you have?
I had to leave it in order to realize the difference in neighborhood dynamics. And And I always thought about that. And I left a lot of people behind and joining a youth program across town that changed my life. A bus ride, it was over an hour bus ride. And it was great programming there that I was part of. And I always thought, like, man, why didn't my neighborhood have it? We could have this stuff in the neighborhood, and it could be an enclave for a safe haven and of youth development. And I wanted to be a place where, yeah, you could leave the neighborhood to level up for sure. And that it's often an option because you get a new environment. Sometimes getting a new environment is one of the best things you ever do. I think we can all relate to that. With that said, I also didn't want to forget about those not leaving the neighborhood. And I wanted them to understand that this neighborhood could be way better and you can make it better. And in many senses, you should be feel responsible to make it better too, because it's your surroundings and your environment. And so you're completely shifting that agency of, this is not my problem. I'm just here for a bit. I'm gonna dip out as soon as I can. Now, and if you do dip out and you level up, you go somewhere better, that's great. And the book doesn't hate on that. And that's why the subtitle is Don't Just Make It Out, Make It Better. I don't say don't make it out. I said don't just make it out, also make it better. So if you head out, just don't forget about the places that raised you and continue investing into it as a seed that continues to grow. Because we know this work takes time. And so I wanted to completely dismantle an ideology was that all you had to do was make it out by all means necessary. And if you made it out, you were the one and you had the ticket and this and this and that. And I wanted to challenge it and say, that's great. And if people feel the need to make it out, and they should, and we should, explore other adventures out there. At the same time, we need to understand that there's still people left in the neighborhood, and we can't just stiff arm them so easily, and we have to think about what are we doing to actually change the dynamics, the actual problems that have been so strong in the neighborhood, gang violence, to poverty, disinvestment, to lack of home ownership, a plethora of issues that compound on each other and that can feel drowning for many families. And so I felt this was the message for all the next up young people who want to change their surroundings. This is how they do it, and this is the playbook they reference.
Definitely a great framework, and I think something that's going to be used not just in your neighborhood, but I'm from Mexico City. I lived in San Francisco, and a lot of those neighborhoods as well need someone like you, like yourself. They need doers for sure, and I think this book is definitely going to be a good framework, not just for the SoCal neighborhoods, but honestly, all the neighborhoods, trying to get better. In the book, he spoke a little bit about mental health, and I bet this, writing a book probably, I don't want to say it hurt, but it kept your mental health busy, probably. How important is mental health for you, while writing the book, while, having the struggles as a youth, in the neighborhood, making it out of the neighborhood? How has mental health been important to you, and how have you been working on it?
In Neighborhood Kid, I give a framework for thinking about all the different areas of your life, and I call it the playbook. And it call it the playbook because it's a basically like an owner's manual for your life, something that they didn't give us when we started this. We figured out how to live this life in a sense. We have so many directions, owner's manuals, and guides of other things of how to make a cabinet to how to fix your car, and we don't have enough for the life that we want to live, which is baffling because we've been around so many times and trying to figure out everything that we're doing. And so in Playbook, there's a starting five that go through spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, and social. And, and when that starting five, one of the pillars is mental. I do get into the thoughts that you're thinking and shaping come into fruition of the way you're living. And one of the biggest things I get into is awareness of what you're thinking about and how it's leading to the actions that you go about throughout the day. And in Neighborhood Kid, the theme is resilience. Resilience is throughout the book, and It's understanding that you're a creator of your environment and you can shift it, and that you're not just a product of it. So that's your neighborhood, but that's also the problems that come your way because life throws shit at us, and we have to figure out how to navigate it. And for sure, there's a period we mourn, we heal, and we feel, and then there's going to be a period where you need to decide, okay, now we need to move beyond it. Now we need to transcend that period and level up from it. Find ways from every challenge in your life is helping you level up. That you're just going to continue to get better. And there's times where we fold, we fall off, and our mental health can be challenged because of so many things we're dealing with, or the world changing, so many things happening. With that said, in every situation, you should feel responsible for doing actions to put you in the right place and not feeling that life is just happening to you, that you're also making life happen. And so that's a big point of the neighborhood, of the environment. It's the same theme throughout of anything you're dealing with, from the loss of a loved one to a breakup and to violence in the community. Understand that you're a creator of all that, and you can figure out and put things into play for yourself and for those around you.
Uh, I completely agree. And then a lot of the stuff you say just resonates because something you mentioned about, the neighborhood, some of those problems or the problems are going to come to you. One thing you said in the book is you got to put your arms around the neighborhood. What does that look like to you? Putting your arms around the neighborhood.
You got to show the neighborhood some love. And I mentioned some stories in there of homies growing up who would kind of neglect the neighborhood and treat it as something that they wanted to be othered, that they weren't associated with, just because they had so many problems. So yeah, you don't want to be associated with someone or something so unstable, right? Because then it reflects on you. And even though you live in the neighborhood, it's oh yeah, but they're doing their thing, and I'm not about this. This place got too many problems, too many issues. It's not really me. Um, I say like bringing love to it and wrapping your arms around it, because again you feel responsible for some of the issues that it's dealing with, and the neighborhood, it will never change or get better from you demonizing it, from you just critiquing it and complaining about it. It will get better by you putting in love for it. And that love can be showed in different ways. It can be showed in the effort you put in at your local job that you have in the neighborhood, or that grit that you have for the local park and making sure it looks nice and it's taken care of, or it could be for volunteering at a local youth program in the neighborhood. You're showing it love, like, and it shows from your actions that, like, okay, this person loves the neighborhood, and you can see it, and you can see from those who are not showing it love and the way they're treating it, the violence that they're bringing about, or the chaos that they're causing. And if we have just a different energy of wrapping our arms and putting love into it, it would only get better. Just like it happens when we do things like that to ourselves and to others. The neighborhood will only become a place that you more want to be a part of and to be associated with.
Yeah, it's your dojo, you know what I mean? And it takes cojones, huevos, to be able to be like, I'm gonna make this neighborhood better. I'm not just gonna get out of the neighborhood because you have all the tangibles to, per se, make it out of the neighborhood, make it out of the hood. And it's very noble for someone to be like, why not make the hood better? Why not make it somewhere where they do want to stay, the suburbs? So again, very, very commendable of you. And you talk about how you had a friend, early in your school, in the elementary school, how you kind of wanted to be a gang member. I want to be a gang member too. I feel like that's, I know
You ran around over the neighborhood like, hey, what's good,
I
homie?
saw, no, I can't see it, but we're all steered in our paths, But how was that for you? Kind of you wanting to be a gang member, almost becoming a gang member, having friends, your sister, you said kind of hung out with that crew. Uh, I bet it was tough, but how was it making that decision? Were at the time were you like conscious that you're changing your life for the better? Did you get any, heat for being a good kid per se, winning student of the month?
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite sections to write about was the gang dynamics, because I've always been interested in it because it is a big part of neighborhoods and barrios for sure, and the hood politics in a sense. And I've never, I don't feel I was ever almost in a gang. And I talk about that in the neighborhood and the reasons why. And I put forward like four different areas why. Of course, I did fantasize it. And I did think it was super cool. And I thought the ones in the gangs were people looked up to and had status and people were attracted to. And of course, who other neighborhood kids gonna want that when you're trying to figure out you want to be popular, you want to be liked, you want to have that community and foundation. And so my closest one I saw it through was gangs at the time, and, and many people that I knew went down that route. I don't think they ever gave me flack for not going down the gang route. And many times, some of the gang members like appreciate you not going down the same path that they did because they actually want to look out for you too. Like, nah, yeah, no, the same for you, and they respected that. And I also had something that I was into, basketball. I was an athlete, so but athletes get passes for sure, big time, especially if you're a good athlete and they know you got a big time future. I don't know if they felt that me
For
or not,
for
but
for all,
yeah.
all you listeners, my boy Bird, he shoots like Larry Bird and has handles like Kyrie Irving. He's a baller. He's a baller, folks.
Oh man, my hooping days, man. I don't hoop as much as I used to anymore, but it was life through and through. and and I was solid at it, and so it was my craft, and all the local people respected me for it, and I had something that I could focus on, and of course my family around me was always supporting me in heading down the right directions. I noticed lots of times in gang dynamics, you relate it back to their family, like their family was probably in the gang, someone in their family that they looked up to and they're influenced by. So it's in the family. It's like you're just continuing the tradition, and it's embedded in culture per se and identity. So it's hard to strip that away, and I can see how hard it is. And one of the things I focus on is stripping away the violence of it all, because there's a lot of different culture of the neighborhood that I love. And I love like the Chicano streetwear and stuff, and I love the slang. That everyone
Pachuco
uses.
guys and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for real, it's cool. I don't love the violence. I don't love the victimization, the social disorganization, the poverty, and the subculture that leads to negative outcomes. I don't love that, and I still don't love that. And I still challenge that, and I hope one day we can get to a place where it's no longer integrated with some of the culture of it all. And so that was a big focus for me, and from thinking about gangs and then going down a different direction.
Nah, yeah. It's funny you say that, athletes get a pass, because Napa is nothing like Long Beach. But I remember, in my neighborhood, I used to play at the public park, and there's always these guys with the backpacks and their phones, and then you're like, oh, why do they have a kid's backpack? Why are they there, at the same time every day? Why do people pick up the backpacks but the guy stays, And then those guys, like you mentioned, they start getting familiar with you, like, oh, this guy, he's focused on something else, and we're not going to bother this guy. But you do mention some of the pillars that steered you away from that life. I think you mentioned it was, your social circle, your parent involvement, your identity, and your mentors. And that's a great fucking framework, honestly. Couldn't agree more. Talk about more of your parent involvement. I think that dynamic, your mom's from Juarez, Zacatecas, your dad's from the States. Um, How motivating were your parents? Because they're both educators as well, so you must have learned a lot of lessons from them, you know?
I did, and they brought their own stories. They had such different stories, which is interesting. So oftentimes we'll have parents with very like similar shared stories, come from different areas because just they relate to each other. But this was completely different worlds, and and I kind of got to see a dichotomy of it all. I have my mom's style of parenting. I have her fire, her energy, and all that. But then my dad and I try to be like a listener as he is, and a learner that he would always try to get better too. So I would get that from him. And in the case of preventing myself from joining a gang or getting involved in violence or doing the wrong things, I gotta give the biggest shout out to my dad, my pops. He was very strict on it, and he was my male figure as well too. Because lots of times in gangs, you're looking at other male figures, you're looking at other big homies, and you're like, damn, homie's cool, like, and all the girls like him too, and this and that, and like, hey, I just want to be like him. And then you see your boys that want to do the same thing too. You just want to be like them, and no one wants to be other. We're phenomenal social creatures, and that's one of our biggest fears is being othered, for better or for worse. And it sets us in ways to have community, but it also sets us in ways to for us to go down and do things that we really don't want to do. And that's what makes it tough. But my dad was big time on me from all the local gang culture and gang violence and everything going on. He was eagle eye on me, and I talk about it and every little thing, even things that weren't even related to gangs, he would overreact for them. And it was frustrating, but it was probably best what I needed. And I was afraid of my dad. He's a good sized dude and strong, and he had like a stone calm voice, and he was never a super big loud person in that sense, but he knew how to have tough conversations, serious conversations with you, and I've always felt his energy through it all. And he made sure that even though I grew up around blocks where it's very easy to go down the gang life, la vida loca, as some people call it. And, he would give me any resources I need and attention and focus for to put me in a different direction. He always tried to give me the best optimal outcome playbook that he knew at the time, anywhere from making me eat carrots and broccoli to join programs, basketball programs, or others. And he even had me in an anger management program because there was a time where I was getting in a lot of fights. And if I kept doing that, that's a good route to just joining a gang because at one point you get enough fights, you gonna get enough enemies, and if you get enough enemies, you're gonna need more protection. And if you need more protection, you're gonna need some boys in your corner to get your back. And that's what gangs provide. Sometimes they are your protection and your community in a sense. But that set me up for a lot of different programs and resources that I could level up from.
No, definitely. I wish your dad sounds like a legend. Wish I could meet the guy. But one of the things that again resonated with me is my I come from a broken family as well. How did that help kind of encourage the book, encourage you to do better?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a deep question, and I don't think I knew what was going on at the time. You feel conflict, you feel rifts and negative energy as a little kid, at like 3, 4, 5 years old in that sense. You feel it, but you don't understand it in a sense. Something's going on there, you don't know why and what it's going to lead to. So, I all I ever knew was at that time was I would just always want to be around my mom. I was a mama's boy for sure. I'm her only son, and I just always had a strong connection with my mom as a kid. And she always tells a story how she would carry me. I would always like hang on to her hair throughout, like always, and pull on her hair to make sure she couldn't go anywhere. And I remember some mornings waking up when we initially lived as a family and not couldn't find my mom, and I would get so scared. Oh, where is she? Where is she? Where is she? And then I would go outside and I found out she's doing a yard sale, so she was just outside. So I always had that like fear of losing her in a sense. And so when the the rift happened to my mom and dad, I went with my mom and sisters. I was cool. Uh, I was vibing because I was always with my mom. And I mentioned how there was a time I even like forgot about my dad in many senses, unfortunately, during that time frame, just because I was always with a mom who took care of me. And it did create a gap in connection with my dad for a while that had to be reestablished. And not until my dad went back custody for me that I later learned like how much like he was important in my life, and I started to let him in. But it was at first hard. I didn't want to live with my dad, and you spend a good amount of time without your dad, without seeing him. It is easy just like to move on with life and forget about it. And we're oftentimes quick to feel that, oh, we don't need this person in our lives and we can do our thing. And that is true. We could do our thing. With that said, and it's usually better to have like both of the parents in your life if they're positive influences. And we have a lot of single moms out there trying to do their thing and play the sides of both parents, and they're doing their best for sure. Um, uh, at the same time, we know they'll still never fully fill the shoes of having a supportive father, supportive male figure, that teaches you just masculinity and energy and protection and provide in that sense. And so I was grateful that I got to live back with my dad and have that father son time, and that whole separate thing. So I was just learning it all and just going about the way. And it sucked, not seeing my sisters half the time. But also I saw different neighborhoods too, because my dad would live in different places and my mom would be in different places. So I saw how different communities were lifted up and how they were treated, and that led to a lot of this book, of seeing that there's way better neighborhoods out there. Like, hold on, like who set this up? We need to figure out what's going on here. And I talked to many people who can relate to that, where they live somewhere, they go on a trip somewhere, and they're like, oh damn, why don't my neighborhood look like this? Like, what's going on here? What's the dynamics at play? And that played a big role in the separation of my mom and dad. I actually got to see it a lot and just trying to bridge the gap.
Definitely agree. You use it for motivation, or you could either use it as a crutch, as a cancer for you. But the reason I ask is because something I got told when I was young, and you might have been told this a couple times as well, is coming from a broken home, being Latino. You know, we're a stat. The government sees us as a statistic. When did you realize that you were kind of a stat? The kind of the cards weren't dealt the best, but you never played the cards that were dealt for you. Well, when did you realize like, hey, I'm a statistic, but I could do more than this.
It's when you look around and see some of the homies you grew up with, and see what they're up to. And it feels like they're in a time capsule of the neighborhood where they're doing the same exact things, following the same exact traps that you knew about. And it's like, damn, I'm a completely different person doing completely different things. And I had a neighborhood friend come through the other day. We hung out. I showed him what I was up to, what I'm doing. I gave him a book, signed it, all that. He's mentioning the book, everything, how I'm living and what's going on with all my life, all areas of it, financially, socially, all that. Just lay it all down. It was a good hangout, and at the end of it, when I dropped him off, he let me know that he got emotional. He got emotional about because he felt that all the dreams we had when we were kids, all the dreams we would talk about and things we would hope to become, he's like, "You're living it. You're living it, D. Like, you're doing this." It got him really emotional, because it's actually some of the things that we thought about coming to fruition. And he felt that way because he's been on different tracks and just still trying to figure out his way. And it did motivate him to lock in. That's what he says. I'm ready to lock in, and I hope it does. And so when you look at the people who grew up around you in the same circumstances, you for sure you see the difference. And and yeah, I'm an outlier in many senses, and a stat breaker, like you're saying, and someone who was able to change the trajectory of the stats that were dealt with. And I relate a lot of that, to some of the extra resources I had in my family, in a sense, with my dad. Because I know some of my other boys and homies, like their families were dealing with different things. And yeah, we had some tough things. I get into it in the book, but also I know some families that had some tougher things, going through way tougher dynamics of people getting shot and killed, or financial dynamics, or just emotional abuse, physical abuse on whole another levels, the levels that you don't even want to talk about. And um, that's something to think about. And then there is also agency too, because there's these two boats of like changing the stats that you're dealt with and improving outcomes. There's one boat is the bootstrap boat, and the bootstrap boat is no matter what, you pull yourself up by the bootstraps, no matter what. And that's a very old school approach. You still see it with some of the older heads around. They still praise it, and there's some validity to it. There is. And then there's this other approach where like there's these larger systems at play that cause different inequities for some of the life situation they're living in. And there's truth in that, 100%. But it's too easy to fall into a mindset of victimhood and thinking like, oh, these larger structures, my life is fucked. Like I'm not gonna be able to do anything. I'm just gonna uh, live down these stereotypes that were dealt to me. Now, I think it's right in the middle of it too. Like you do need some agency and think about like where you want to get to, and pick yourself up because it is going to be tough. And at the end of the day, like you're going to be the one saving yourself. And at the same time, there are larger structures at play, 100%. And that's why I challenge us to think about it from a system standpoint. So I do get into resilience of like personal transformation, and I do get into the systems that need to be uplifted to create environments at play and that have blossom you, that let you grow. And in the book, chapter nine, which is actually my favorite chapter, chapter nine for sure, what it means to make it out. I do mention some of the other work that goes on throughout the country, and there's one called Harlem Children's Zone, and Jeffrey Canada was the guy, and it's the book called Whatever It Takes. And in the book, Jeffrey talks about how he doesn't want um, just stat breakers in a sense that are breaking molds. That he wants stats to be completely broken in a sense, like the whole population, so that we don't need to break these stats because we can only have so many stat breakers and outliers to the point where it's not that many of us. How do we get it to where it's the masses in a sense? So everyone's heading down different routes, and then the neighborhood itself is being completely transformed, so they don't have to deal with some of the same obstacles that we did.
No, definitely. And then one thing you mentioned in the beginning was, kind of that old school that you just have the strap. What do you call it? The strap boots or
You got
the bootstraps. Yeah. No, I definitely.
that. You just pick them up. Yeah, pick
I'm
yourself.
here in Mexico right now, and that's totally the mentality they have. You know how it is. The older people, they're like, you just got to do it. Got to do it. No other way. And I agree. It's definitely it works, but if you're thinking about the long term mental health and just being able to communicate, communicate the issues, I definitely think there's a newer approach that people are figuring out, how to stay motivated. And you talked about, kind of some of the mentors. Can you talk a little bit about you have a section that says find ways to capitalize on moments of fragility and chaos. Can you talk about that section? Because again, this book is a framework, and this is something that I'm going to follow as well, moving forward.
That's a fire quote. Capitalize on moments of fragility and chaos, and um, a lot of people relate to it. I've noticed in that sense. There's turning points throughout our lives, and when something goes down, something happens internally, externally, around you, whatever. But it challenges you to a level you haven't been challenged before, and along those pathways, during those turning points, there is a great amount of being molded in a sense. There is a great amount of fragility. Yeah, it's like it's like cement. The best time to put cement exactly where it is when it's being mixed in that sense. So we think about like a sidewalk in a sense, and there's different parts of sidewalk that have cement that's still being mixed. The the concrete that's built up together, that's the regular life trajectory you're going on. But then you get into a place where there's concrete being mixed because so many things are going on, and you need to put the concrete in the exact place in the sidewalk before it hardens, and you need to pound the pavement in different ways. And those are moments of some oftentimes chaos and fragility. And it's very easy to let those moments uh, change you in ways that don't evolve you and don't let you level up, to either fold in a sense, or fall off and go down a different route you didn't think you would be on. And it's very easy. That's the easy route. Now, at the same time, there is a time to actually like mold a strong foundation during that time too. And so it's the perfect time for either or to completely transcend and transform your life. If you ever ask someone who's transformed their life from a tough place, they can relate it back to a story or to the rock bottom of their life when everything was going to shit and they couldn't believe what was going on. And that was the exact moment that they just had enough. In a sense, their back was against the wall, and which I've mentioned a lot. And so, in those moments of fragility and chaos, I challenge the reader to capitalize on them, to do things to mold the exact map that you want in life. And if you can capitalize on those moments, you're leveling up at proportions that you've never seen before, and those are the best times to level up. And your lowest, your greatest self comes through your lowest moments, and so when that fragility and chaos comes out, find a way to let it change your character in a way that strengthens you and gives you resolve, and that people can count on you in that sense. And some of the craziest stories you ever hear, people use it as a badge of honor, where they were able to decide from that moment that they were going to do something about it. Yeah, one of the stories I mentioned in the book is uh, my house getting broken into in some of the public housing that I was growing up in, and that's a story that I use. I could have been very negative about the area and negative about people and created stereotypes and hate. But with that said, I actually used it for fuel to make it a story where I'm going to solve stuff. All right, I'm going to use this. I'm going to do something about it. And there's lots of different examples of that. Even a great example is that is MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, where there's a period of fragility and chaos because that mother lost a child because of drunk driving, and that mother could have went down a route of complete agony in terms of grief for losing a child, one of the worst things that can happen to you. And I bet they did have fears of that, and to feel those emotions and to heal and to grieve all that. But they could have had continued on that route and just felt hopeless about life and feel that nothing's getting better, and then abused in drugs or alcohol and done things that didn't respect themselves because of it, and they're away just trying to figure out the route. But a lot of those mothers use those moments of chaos to create what they did into this movement, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, which has a lot of success in some of the statistics of preventing people from dying from drunk drivers. And they created something out of it. They capitalized on it, and that's what I'm challenging the reader to do.
Yeah, no, definitely the nonprofit, as we mentioned, you could either use, some of these challenges in life to hinder you, or you could use them as motivation. Can you talk a little bit about, you mentioned you got hit by a car. I got hit by a car as well. Another reason why I resonate with the book, but again, you come out of that accident. I don't want to say better than before, because you were kicking ass before. But again, you could have used that to, feel sorry for yourself. You could have used that to, hinder your path. But you came out stronger. You came out writing a book. You're still helping the neighborhood. Can you talk about that experience?
Yeah, that's a powerful experience, very emotional time. Um, throughout our journeys, you oftentimes think if you're doing the right things, it's gonna go like this. It's gonna be linear, but it isn't. It isn't. It's oftentimes like this. There's ways of it, and you fall off, and you decide how much you're gonna keep falling off. At what point are you gonna level back up to get back baseline and to go to new heights that you've never been before? And before the accident, like things were going well for me, really well in my career, my personal life. Everything was just laying, and I'm young too, and I'm 25 at the time. I'm really just enjoying everything from the fruits of my labor for sure. And then that happens, like boom, split second. Your life changes in split seconds. And we all know this, but you don't really feel it until it happens. And it's like, damn, my life complete just changed. And traffic fatalities, traffic injuries, it's the most dangerous thing around you. And I think everyone knows that getting in a car or getting out there around cars is the most dangerous thing they can do. But we're so habituated to it that it doesn't really hit. It really hit us. And when that car hit me and hit and run and completely changed my life, when at first I thought like things were it for me in so many different ways. I thought I was gonna have like a permanent disfigured and damaged things that I couldn't bounce back from, and that was my biggest hope. That my biggest hopelessness that we didn't have. But what gave me the hope of that I can level up from this accident was the fact that I had a chance to bounce back from it. Now, I went through a period of after I had laid out and I couldn't take care of myself. Yeah, I was down and out 100%. And I grieved that accident, and I cried and I felt the emotions of it. I was at the bottom of the barrel in a sense. And there wasn't much around me except, my close family and a couple of friends. And they have lives too that they need to live, and they can't just be taking care of you in a sense for the rest of your life. Um, and one of my coaches, I called one of my coaches during that time where I was going through recovery, and he was actually the coach who motivated me in the program I went in, Lakewood Hoops, and he just gave me the motivation of, hey, this is another opportunity to level up, and it was very easy for me to become addicted off opioids. I had it all. I had all the painkillers that anyone could ask for during that time, and also just become a different person and decide that I'm not an athlete anymore and my body's completely different because you do 4 surgeries in 4 months. Like lots of people don't have surgeries, and when you have a surgery, you usually have a surgery and then you heal up for what, 6 to 12 months or whatever it is. Now this is back to back. Every month you're doing surgery, and it's frustrating because as soon as you heal up, you're going back under. And I had no surgeries prior to that. I was big time shaving. I was strong. Next thing you know, everything goes to the bottom. And my physical health, my social health, and my social self, and who I was. And it was a difficult time, and I had my periods of like wallowing in how my life just completely changed. And yeah, I had ways to cope with like talking to friends about it and frustrations, and I had times where I binge watched a whole bunch of shows just to like get out of my head in a sense. And one of the shows was Love Island. That was just a great show at the time. And I see it's been talked about a lot over the past summer. But I watched a lot of the UK Love Island with my sisters and families, and I enjoyed it, and it was fun.
Could you be on one of those shows? Could you ever go on one of those shows?
I don't know, man. Those people are really good looking. I don't know. Actually, someone in the book that I mentioned was on one of the Love Islands this past summer. Uh,
Oh, hey, let's go.
people know him.
Hey,
And
with those locks, man, those locks are looking nice. You know what I mean?
I would shave them, man. They're getting too long. Uh, and there's that period of getting out of your head, and we're often trying to escape our head during those moments, but you can't let it snowball. So I know people who just always want to stay out of their head because they don't want to confront their things. And if you do that, the problems never get solved. At a certain point, you need to turn around that hill and you need to go uphill and go after what happened to you. And so I created my bounce back in a sense, and I line up the steps that I took to bounce back in the book, the exact steps, and I put it together. And it wasn't easy, and it's not a perfect step playbook in a sense or a guide, but it can help get you there. And you just bring like relentless energy of it, and you're gonna take steps back. But as long as you take a few more forward beyond it and make those incremental progress and baby steps, then you'll get out of it. And now I'm 28. This is I'm approaching over 2 years, nearly 3 years from the accident. It was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It really was, and I love life way more. Understand how fragile it is, that you can lose it so quick, and just like going for a walk or going to the grocery store or going to whatever you want to do. I'm like, man, this stuff is y'all understand. This stuff is fun. This is beautiful. Like this game we're playing. Yeah, we got things that are going on in our life, problems at work, someone we don't like as conflict and stuff, and this and that, or someone family or friend or breakups, or personal relationships. But really, like if you still have your health and you're going about, moving about the world, and you have that opportunity, that chance to make something out of your life, then it's a beautiful way and perception to look at everything.
No, definitely. And then the playbook you're talking about for the people listening, please go check out the book. It is probably one of the best reads, New York Times bestseller, I bet. I see it in the future. But don't want to give too many spoilers, but the playbook you talk about spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, and social, as as well as I think social, yeah, as well as some of the key parts to that. Uh, what do you think is the most, and I know you can't really, favor one, it's a system, but what do you think, is the most crucial part? Because I see you as a doer, you're man, you kick ass. You're definitely, one of my role models, even though we're the same age. Uh, so what would you say is, is one of the most important parts to that plan, or is there one that you favor out of the other?
I think we have eras and phases of things we're really focusing on. Like there's an era of thinking about your social surroundings, who you're hanging out with after work, after school, on the block, and thinking about how much they're influencing you, or who you're with, and who you're in a relationship with, and how much that person mirrors you, and influences your decisions. And we had those eras. I've had those eras, and I'll continue to have them. And then there's times where you're completely questioning your purpose and your meaning and what you really want to do in this world. And that gets to the like something beyond yourself. That's the spiritual side of what's greater than you. It's something you can't really describe. You really feel it. You can really feel it. So I have my eras and throughout them all. And right now I'm probably in a real spiritual era, where I'm really thinking about how can I best contribute to the world in different ways, and that our time here is finite in many senses, and how can I do something that really like changes it all, and that's bigger than myself, um, and me writing down that story in a book for Neighborhood Kid allows me to think about my next adventures without anything holding me back, anything. And I've given so much for my neighborhood through the book, through the nonprofit, through all the programs and things I've done. And I'll still give and be a part of it. And there's a couple other projects that are not done in the neighborhood yet, like the community center. And the neighborhood is still dangerous. It is. It's getting a little safer. Yeah, it's getting a little safer here and there, but it still overall has a lot of problems going on, and it's gonna take a little bit longer. But now I have some things rolling and doing their thing. They're scaling, and the people leading it. My nonprofit's doing its thing. I stepped down earlier this year. It does its own thing. It's self-sustaining. And I have no official role in it, and it's growing. There's some great leaders behind it, and so now I get to really think like what really draws my spirit to doing something, for the greater good, honestly, and for impact, and for something that I can look back on or whatever, and I can feel like, man, like this is something I really contributed. And I'm not saying that this is the path, this is the right path for everyone. but this is one for me. And there's some people who just want to experience the joys life has to offer, and we all do. And some people just want to, pull out all the euphoria of life through traveling to concerts and to festivals and this and that. And you want to just experience, experience, experience. And I want to experience things too. At the same time, I want to do something that has never been done before. Something that people would laugh at you and say, "Yeah, what are the odds of that?" And I've had people tell me that before. And for me, it's one of the biggest drivers, and I love it. And when you find a mission and you're just like ready for it, and you're just like going after it. So that's the era I am in the spiritual. All the levers of the playbook are important. You need to address all of them, and they're going to have different phases for them. I do recommend doing them in order, spiritual and then down up, all the way down to social, just a way that they play in different dynamics, and that you reference people who've done it, because a lot of people have the answers that you're looking for through books, through talking to others, and that they can help guide you in your way and make it yours. Make it yours, make it fit you, because everyone's different. Everyone's different. Even in this era that we're saying we're NPCs, non-playable characters, we're all the same. And yeah, most of the things we do, we're all the same. Even the conversation we're having right now, the man is like, yeah, people have probably had it before, but there's little percentages that are slightly different, 1%, 2%, 10% that you need to think about for your dynamics, because never before ever has your life happened before. Even if it's very similar to other people's life, even if it's very similar, your life is still has a slight uniqueness to it. You see it through our fingerprints and the ways that we think and our neural pathways, and there's slight difference and there's individuality in that sense. So bring your own spice to it and think about those levers to level up your own life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And there is a quote again, a couple quotes that resonate with me. I think we spoke about this before we started. The first one was what is it? Uh, to expand your ex expanding your exposure, or what is it? What is it? Expanding your exposure expands your expectations.
Yeah, exposure increases expectations for my guy Leonidas.
That one strikes me, especially because it's so relevant in the times right now that we're living in right now. You know what I mean? You talk about the NPC moment, social media. I go back and forth with thinking if the internet's a good thing to make us also close to each other or a bad thing,
Mhm.
because obviously some people use it how it's not intended to. But there's another one that you mentioned that if we limit our knowledge solely to our own experiences, we'll be shortchanged. And it just it's so vital because people need to get outside of their bubble, you know? Like you mentioned, you went backpacking uh, all over the world. It sounds like I bet you got some experiences there. You went to Chico, definitely Chico. I think only has a 9% Latino, so we definitely were around, some cool ass people though. Shasta Three, my fraternity. I met some white dudes from SoCal that were pretty awesome as well. Just expand your horizon. And can you talk about one of the coolest things you did? And you did this after graduation. How was it starting the nonprofit? But you also talk about backpacking. What are some of the what are some of the cool experiences there, cool people you met, because you mentioned you were living in hostels, so you're meeting people from literally all over the world. How's that experience, and how has that helped, kind of spiritual, mental?
With backpacking and with traveling, and it it's one of the most biggest ways to transcend the way that you're living, because we have a culture here, and even United States, where we have so many different races, ethnicities, and all that stuff, we still have an American culture as a dominant culture. And when you travel, what's cool about it is when you're in another country, like when I'm at a hostel in Cape Town, South Africa, and everyone's from different parts, and everyone's different skin colors. Now, it's not like, oh, those are the black backpackers, those are the brown backpackers, those are this and this and that. It's oh, those are the American backpackers, and those are the French backpackers in that sense. Even if there are different skin colors within that group, everyone just becomes like your country, which is really cool, I think. And just seeing it just from the countries that we're coming from, and just bringing this international sense together, and understanding the local culture, how it's so different. And we're always quick to be righteous in our own culture, to think like that's right, this is the way is right, everyone else is wrong. It's way more complicated than that. There's so many more dynamics, way more complex. And until you get out of your enclave and you travel and you immerse yourself in the culture and you experience it for yourself and you're traveling, and until you do that, you have this limited mindset of things. And traveling has been one of the top three things that changed my life. I always say it's people, places, and books. And the places is all the places I've been to in backpacking. And I've had some of my best ideas and thoughts out there, because it puts you in a different mindset too, to see things differently in a bit. I luckily studied abroad in college and I loved it and enjoyed it. And it got me to wanting to backpack. And so after that, I went full on backpacker and did Southeast Asia and Latin America, and then recently did Africa. And next, I'm going to do Australia. And I have the goal that I mentioned in the book that I'm going to do every continent before I turn 30, and I got Australia and Antarctica left up. But those experiences I've had and the people I've met, I know people from everywhere, from all these different countries. From if I land in Germany, I can hit some people up. If I land back in Ecuador, I can hit some people up. And we're living completely different lives in a sense, and a lot of them deal with similar issues, just different dynamics in a sense, and different things going on, different cues at play. And so backpacking has put me in a different context of it all. Think about my neighborhood is a half a square mile neighborhood, and this world is vast and enormous and gigantic, and there's so many other things out there. And to know that, yeah, it isn't a bubble, when there's things that we can make it better. And that's something I've always instilled, and I always recommend people do that. And I love backpacking after doing something big time, in a sense where it was something you were going after and you were able to do it. And I've done it after graduating college, and I did it after starting the nonprofit, Books and Buckets. And that's when I traveled out there, and went out to some backpacking in South America after that. And it was a great honoring of the moment and reflecting of what was next. And starting the nonprofit was a journey of several years, and it went through the shutdowns and everything. Things were delayed and figuring out that. And during that moment of fragility and chaos during the shutdowns and everything going on, that's when I locked in on the nonprofit. That's when I learned everything. We were stuck in here anyways. Yeah, I binge watched a lot too, and I did my all that stuff. Yeah, just like everyone else, I did. I'm not here to say like I'm Kobe Bryant. I was like 100% locked in. I wasn't, but I did spend a great deal on something that I wanted to build and create, and it was a nonprofit, and I didn't know how it was gonna go, and I thought potentially this could just be a summer thing if it doesn't go well, but at the same time I had these massive goals that I wanted to accomplish for the neighborhood, and I wanted to become a big time nonprofit. I wanted to become the best nonprofit. That's just been always the way I've gone about things. If I'm going to do it, I want to become the best it could possibly be. Same thing with this book. I didn't just want another book out there for the shelf to collect dust. I want it to be a big time read where someone references it and goes back to it, and it included me. And look back like, oh yeah, what was that? Frank, oh yeah, what happened there? Oh yeah, let me get in there. Oh yeah, okay, I'm going through this journey. Now this makes sense. And so I think that's the same energy to the nonprofit, and it went really well and gained a lot of funding really on quick. And within 4 years, it became a sustainable nonprofit. I started when I was 23, and then 4 years later, it lives on its own. A lot of people start nonprofits, but then they stay there for a long time, and it's wrapped around who the founder is and this and that. But it's really hard to start a nonprofit and make it sustainable. It may take a long time, it's like 10 years, 20 years. We were able to do it in 4 years. Now it has its own organic structure and leaders. And a lot of it has to do with the leader who I played, and the current director, Andrew, is leading it. A lot has to do with him and everyone around him, and Andy and Gabe as well, too, in the community. With that said, it came from a lot of effort that we were able to just put in all the work that we could. So this could be an anchor for the neighborhood that holds the neighborhood down. And I see it continuing and getting better, increasing, and passing the baton. I didn't want things that would just fall off one and done here and there because I feel it kind of wastes time and doesn't compound. I think we underestimate the ability of compounded growth. Well, we know compounded growth in like financial terms, but you can bring that same compounded incremental progress and scaling into some of the other like social impact terms and your own personal life terms. They're just going to build on each other if you create the structures where it continues to grow and to evolve throughout. And that's what we did with the organization.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize just because I used to recruit for nonprofits, did some tax financial help with nonprofits, and they don't realize that you're working with grants. You know what I mean? You're working with the local government, the people. You really have to immerse yourself in the people. Could you, just so the people know and the viewers, because they're definitely going to check out the book, but what is the name of your nonprofit? Just give them a little bit about the mission as well. I know it involves books and basketball. And also, you mentioned it's self-sustaining right now. Well, what does that mean for the viewers?
Nonprofit that I founded, yeah, I was 23 and it was 2021 that it officially became a nonprofit. And it's called Books and Buckets and it's focused on youth academics, athletics, and advocacy. And it initially started just to focus on basketball and education, really the things I knew best. And it's blossomed into a community organizing, power building hub, a movement building, a campaign leading hub of young leaders in the neighborhood. And it's building the next generation of organizers to make the neighborhood exactly how it should be. And it's self-sustaining now in a sense where I step down from it. I don't even speak on behalf of it anymore. All the success it's having right now, I can't take credit for it because I'm not behind the steering wheel in a sense. And stepped down earlier this year, and it has its team and employees and contractors. I stepped down in a place where I left it very in a strong financial state where I was able to hand it off, and people were able to build on it and actually level it up. And they actually are leveling up financially, taking it to a whole different level than I was able to. And I was a volunteer always throughout. I've never been paid by the nonprofit, and that nonprofit has brought in hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I've never been paid once because it was something that I felt was a passion of mine that I didn't want to feel like it was a job in a sense. And a big reason why I did step down was that it was getting big enough to the point where it did was feel like a job, and which it takes some enjoyment out of it, regardless if I was a volunteer. And so it was time for me to let it go and let it blossom with other people leading it. And I, of course, I always will always support it and always be a fan of it. But it's doing its thing, and it's supported over hundreds of gang impacted youth in the neighborhood. It's helped secure a Fortune Street Park revitalization. We have one of the nicest basketball courts in the entire city of Long Beach because of the work the organization has done. It's helped secure a community center that's not there yet, but it secured $500,000 in partnership with Mayor Rex Richardson and everyone involved in Latinos in Action to bring an actual community center. Like these are physical changes. We're not just saying like, oh, we had a nice little program with a few youth and we told them they could be whoever they want, have a dream, all that. No. We're not just doing that. Yeah, we do a little of that, or Books and Bucks does a little bit of that, but it's actually changing the infrastructure of the neighborhood, the funding of it all. So it's getting to the other layers. And I talk about the system change component because those programs that we do in the neighborhood, they only go so far. We need to really shift some things if we want to solve things. And if you notice a lot of the problems in the area, in the neighborhood, they're not getting solved. We're just like in this cycle. And so the focus is always how do we actually solve these things? And that's what the nonprofit is going after it and its main mission. And there will be a day the neighborhood's safe and the gang violence isn't a big issue. There will be a day. When that day is, I don't know. It's going to depend on the young people in the neighborhood and how much momentum they have for it, how much energy they have for it, how many people are involved, how much funding there is, and how much commitment from local government there is to decide that day. But it starts with that mental belief that it will happen, and we will get there. It's just going to take some innovative thinking, not just doing the same old things, turn the same old gears.
Uh, definitely think something you pointed out was kind of we can do as much as we want. We can lead a horse to water, but really it's within the neighborhood, that wants to change to the motivation that they have. Um, how have you seen, even if it's a small change, I mean, it's incredible that you made an impact and you've talked about the physical impact, the basketball courts. This is more, the book is going to be spiritual, mental impact for the neighborhood. It impacts me already. Um, how have you seen the neighborhood change from when, you were living there, you were growing up, the friends you had, the gangs, to how it is now?
Mm. Yeah, and you made me think about how everything that I've been working on, they kind of play into each other. Like the book is the playbook in a sense, the guide of it all, and the nonprofit is the mobilizer, the action oriented that's actually doing the things. And the book you can reference back to figure out how to get things done, but that nonprofit is actually making them happen, and they interplay with each other. And then the courts, the basketball courts, right, which I talk about at the nonprofit help revitalize, that's the safe haven and the community of it all. And then the next one is the community center. The community center that's coming about, that's being led by Andrew, who runs the organization, and Marta Cota, who runs Latinos in Action. That community center is going to be one of the final big pieces in order to have some of the right ecosystem for changing some of the statistics in violence. And some of the things I've seen, of course, I've seen it from a big standpoint where you look at the basketball courts, you're like, these are the nice basketball courts in the city, which is crazy because when I was growing up, we had the worst basketball courts in the city. And people understand how much the things around you are shifted and changed and improved just from absolute tenacity and effort of it all. And that you can actually create and change some of these things. And that's what I try to remind people like, this is just the way it is and the way it's done. Like, you can decide on it, and how things are built together. And so I look at those courses, I'm like, wow, we got a mural on the course done by artist Tracy and Arts Council, and it's beautiful. We got nice fiberglass backboards and all that. And I was like, damn, this neighborhood, like, no one would expected that. Those are the big ones that I've seen. The next big one, of course, is the community center, and that's going to take some time, but it will happen. It's going to take a few years, maybe a little bit longer, but there'll be a day, and I'll be there at the community center grand opening where we open it, and it'll be open for the community. And that's another massive big one. Um, and the smaller changes that I've seen throughout is the experiences that the young people are taking out of it and making it a part of themselves and their identity. And I hear stories of a young person who helped create a project. There was a young woman who created a project for cleaning up the neighborhood for all the litter going on. And they cleaned up all the trash, her and her sister, and did a community cleanup. It was like 30 people, and a lot of community cleanups happen in the neighborhood. But community cleanups just address a symptom, and they're needed, but it keeps getting dirty. So what we're gonna do about the root problem? And so those sisters actually created the trash and brought it into an earth. And it came together, and they did it with the Arts Council and with Marlene was one of the directors of Books and Buckets and Earth to symbolize how trash the neighborhood is. And they brought it to city council and city leaders to have a messaging campaign and bring that symbolic sense of it. And that young woman one of the sisters I found out recently, I used that story as an experience that they had for changing their neighborhood. That they believe that, well, I actually did something that was different, and they'll remember that experience forever. Be a part of it, like, wow, if we actually did something that's possible in it. And another one is one of the upcoming big time leaders in the neighborhood is Edric, who after we painted the basketball courts, and he spent the most hours there. He was there every day painting those courts with the artists there, and he talked about how, and it's something I was thinking I was going to happen too, but it was great hearing him say it because I didn't ask him if it happened either. He was just saying it when we were hanging out. He was like, "Man, it's crazy because now, ever since I painted the courts and helped the artists with the mural, now when I see people like spitting on the courts, throwing trash in a way, or me like thinking about throwing trash and doing, I don't want to do that. And I'm just like, I watch out for like, hey man, don't do that. And we worked hard on these courts because he had that sweat equity in it, and he was pounding the pavement in there. He was putting in the work, and that's a beautiful like shift of ideology of thinking of how you're a protector of this environment. and you can create it and you can make it worse and you can make it better. And he made it better and he knew how much effort it took to make it better. So he wants to keep it maintained as making it better and let others know around him that they can do the same.
Yeah, especially in your journey, I bet you've met some tremendous people. You know, you mentioned the artist. You've worked in the political world as well. Some of the city leaders that are helping you with the nonprofit helped you along the way. When you got into politics, I just bring this up because right now it's kind of a soft subject. Um, how has that helped you kind of integrate the city, integrate, your nonprofit, the book. What did you learn about, getting into politics and how has that networking helped you?
I got into local politics at a young age, and a lot of stuff we see on the news and stuff, it's the federal politics, the national politics that are going on. And I got into, there's local, there's regional, there's state, and there's national. I got into local politics at a very young age. I was in college. It's when I transferred back from Chico State, actually, when I first got into it. I was still trying to figure out what was I going to do, what was my niche and stuff, and I was transitioning transitioning careers, and politics just happened to step in front of my path from a presentation that came into college, and I was excited about it. I thought it was cool, so I gave it a shot, and I really loved it. The campaigning of it, the community aspect of it, and political campaigning, I think, is one of the best starts of a young person's career because you meet so many people and you go so many places, you do so many presentations, so much networking, and so much connections, and your social capital just skyrockets. And I was talking about this the other day with someone who runs political campaigns actually a few days ago, and it's like, man, that's a great place to just add experiences because oftentimes when you first get into the workforce, you got this, a little entry level thing, and they might let you lead something here and there, not too much, because they're still trying to gain trust and all that. But with political campaigning, it's such a grind that a lot of the young people lead it because there's so much to do. And the more they can do, and there's so many more opportunities, the better. And there's thousands of residents and voters that you have to do. And so you learn a lot. And I met all the local elected leaders through my work and just through my hustle all throughout. And so I knew the dynamics at play. I knew the power dynamics, which is one of the levers in systems change, which I detail in the book, one of the six levers. And I understood how the city works and what made things move and change. And I created great friendships too. And when I was starting the nonprofit, I was able to, I lean into my friendships and mentorships, people who are elected leaders to ask them like how to start this thing and how to gain support for it, what areas can we do about it. And we did partnerships with local school board members, and Eric Miller, Juan Benitez, and partnerships with local council members, Mary Nejas, and a plethora of people who were involved, and of course, partnership with the mayor of Long Beach, who eventually became the mayor of Long Beach around that time, Rex Richardson. And they were able to join this movement that we're about and bring it some validity in a sense, and come out and speak to the youth and be a part of it. And one of the big components of the program initially was bringing out politicians, bringing out elected leaders to speak to the youth because oftentimes we want to get young people into the places of power and bring them to that. And what I was trying to do is bring the power to the neighborhood so the young people can speak to them directly there. And we did that. And we had a crazy lineup the first summer, talking about state assembly members, council members, school board members, um, Congress member offices, and all that, mayor's office, and everyone came about. And it was our first summer. We were just figuring things out. So it was a great way for exposure too because those elected leaders are involved in so many different places and they're able to know that, okay, this organization is doing great work. How can we partner with them? How can we support it and increase the work? So I'm very thankful for everyone that came out, and political campaigning and local politics was a great way for me to help build a local organization that lives beyond me.
Dude, yeah, I bet you're well known. The bird is known out there in Long Beach.
Don't get
Uh,
Man, I don't hear
but
bird that much anymore. Every now and then I still hear it. I sometimes miss it. But bird's the word, man. Bird in the neighborhood.
bird is the word. Definitely now. One man can change the world. But Yeah, another quote you had is we get caught up in dramas on the news or the feed that we forget to invest in our energy into something that actually makes an impact. That resonated with me, Um, right now you're seeing a lot of like ICE raids. The president, uh, he's very strong on his some of the very firm in some of his points. What would you say to kids trying to make their neighborhood better, maybe like you trying to make it out for a bit just to expand their horizons? What would you say to kids, or what do you say to kids that, are kind of seeing what's going on in the news, these raids? How do you motivate the youth since you do work with them?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a large national issue that's having local impacts. And we're seeing it all throughout here in Long Beach. SoCal, LA area is hit the hardest across the country, and multiple areas are hit, but LA, of course, because just the population, how dense we are, and how much our immigrant community supports our local infrastructure. And even yesterday, the day, there's like 5 people picked up from the car wash in the neighborhood here in Long Beach. And it feels like it's happening every week now. At first, it was like, oh my gosh, that just happened in Long Beach. And now it's like, oh, that just happened again. That just happened again. Um, it's a tough issue to navigate because you do feel powerless in something like this. You really do. Because you can organize and you raise awareness and you can do this and do that. And and some of the negative impacts that we're seeing from these rays and families being torn apart. Like these are families, man. These are families who love living here in this country. It's being parents being stripped away, and you try to do something on it. You're not seeing the return on it, so it does feel very much hopeless and powerless. And that's a tough situation to be in because it builds up frustration and resentment, and it was something we don't want to build up. And there's a recent Supreme Court case that just made it where they can profile people based on a few different dynamics and factors of race, ethnicity, or what they speak and what they look like, and this and that. And you see the Supreme Court case, and you're just like, wow, you're seeing so many different domino effects, things that are making the whole situation more challenging. And I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to trying to solve something that feels so powerless when you're seeing it from the executive branch and the president and then the Supreme Court, and different areas. And the more you see community push back and mobilize, actually the more I see ICE get agitated and go harder. And they've literally said this. There's quotes where they said, like, "We're going to go even harder for because y'all did that." I'm just like, wow. At what point are we making things better or are we making things worse in different areas? Because the biggest thing you can do is you raise awareness and you try you organize. And I'm not the best one to say what you should do if you really feel that you want to try to make an impact here. The best ones are the organizations who are actually doing it. And in Long Beach, it's Orale, it's Filipino Migrant Center, it's Latinos in Action who are actually involved in it, and LA is the Chirala, Chirala and a couple others, and Brown Issues is another good platform that focuses on it. They're the best ones to say what you could do. Now, in that case, when your national issues are having a direct impact locally, and you're not sure what to do, and it's powerless. At that same time, even in those situations where you think you can't do much, you can still support your local neighborhoods, and that's what the book is about. Is that there's so many national things that we do, and you can go out and talk this and do that, and you don't really see you don't see your difference. You really don't, and that's how people get over it. But when you see your difference in your local block of helping out your local neighbors or going on, they need help with bringing in the groceries or taking out the trash or looking out for them if something's targeting them and they don't feel safe, and you're watchful eye or just keeping the area safe. You see the differences from that. You really do, and you need to maintain some power in a sense where that your energy can have an impact of it and can do something because there's even international issues like things going on in Gaza and all that, other countries, and there's a lot of things going on in different countries throughout, and some get more attention than others, for better or for worse, and some things we don't even hear about, and so many international issues that Yeah, you can do maybe a little something, donate and raise awareness, do an event, all that. But you still don't see some of that energy come from a direct impact of it because you're not hands on with it. Like, what can you be hands on with? You can be hands on with your block. You can be hands on with your neighborhood. You can create a neighborhood association. You can fix up your basketball court. You can do a cleanup. You can organize a young group of leaders and you can come up with a new business framework to help local vendors in different ways. There's so many other ways that you can help your neighborhood and change some of the dynamics. So I do encourage the readers to really think about those ones, the easy wins that they can do to make things better from their local surroundings.
Oh, definitely. That's great advice. And you know, after you've written this book, you've worked on the local politics, the nonprofit. What's the biggest lesson you've learned? I guess taking into aspect, what is going on in the country right now. But what would you say is the biggest thing you've learned, and what motivates you? What keeps you going?
In the synopsis of the book, and the synopsis is the summary of it, I do mention how you have to face the fire in your community and yourself. The biggest lesson I learned is that you can't serve your community if you're not serving yourself in so many different areas. And I learned that from being stuck on a couch, bedridden, with my mom and sister bringing me food and a nurse coming in to teach me how to live my life again, coming to my home. Because no matter what I did, and I had that nonprofit, and it was still going, and it continued to go when I was out, which is really cool. But no matter what, all those things I did and helped win political campaigns and being part of that, when you're down and out, everything he continues rolling, does this thing, and people have their lives and they keep living their lives. And I'm not hating on them or getting mad at them for doing that, but I'm just letting them know is that no matter what you do and some of the things you create in your surroundings and some of the products of your effort, I they're external at the end of the day, and you need to think about yourself in the sense of taking care of it because this vessel that you have is so um, precious. It's a temple, this body that you have, and that you're it's an absolute temple. And we often sacrifice ourselves for external things. For that job that you really need promotion, you sacrifice your body, you're doing 7 days a week and 15-hour days or whatever it may be, and not sleeping, and or we sacrifice ourselves uh, for different dynamics or different relationships and people around in a sense, and it always goes back to like how's yourself doing and how you're serving yourself. And I do mention in the book when you think about changing your neighbor, there's four whys. It's it's your city, your neighborhood, your block, but at the end of the day, it's yourself. It's yourself, and you are the CEO of you, and you decide how you is being ran, and how your health is, and how your mind is, how everything's going on. And and it can it can sound like a selfish thing, and people try to put negative dynamics to it, like oh, you just take care of yourself doing that, and actually, yeah, it is a selfish thing. You're focusing on yourself, but indirectly you're going to affect things externally because you're bringing your best self to all these different places. And so I learned so much that no matter what, the book and our private community in the neighborhood, the violence and this and that, and the day I had to take care of who I am and what I'm doing. And now I'm 28 now, we're in our late 20s now. They're different and
Dude,
things
don't
like
remind me. Fuck.
we're pushing 30, my boy. We're not 18-year-olds in the dorm anymore. And
It
uh,
feels it feels 30, you know what I mean? Like you gotta stretch in the morning now and take care of
uh,
yourself a little bit more.
you feel 30, man. I was 28. I don't know about that. And it's 10 years since we've been in the dorms when we were these college kids. And this the more time goes on, the more you're like, wow, this health, this body, this mind is the most precious thing. And until you lose the health and all that, then you realize it, which is unfortunate because so many people won't realize it until something life changing happens and their health is back against the wall. And you talk about, I mean, a super rich person, Warren Buffett, who was like one of the richest people out there. And think about where his age and his health and how where things are at? Like, would you trade your health for his finances and your health and your age to get his finances to be in his spot? Hell no, you wouldn't. Your health is worth more than all his billions. I was like, this is the most important return on investment that you have, and the more you invest in it, the higher quality it is. And then aging is a big factor in how things go and how do we age gracefully and still maintain that youthful vitality through it all. So that's been the number one lesson that I've learned is focusing on yourself in order to help the environment around you.
Yeah, that's a great point. You can't help others if you yourself are kind of, paralyzed, stuck in your own ways, not taking care of yourself. Um, one of the things I liked about the book was that you had a playlist, the Trust Yourself playlist. Well, what is your favorite song in that Trust in Yourself playlist? What?
My favorite one was Living Life in the Night. It's I forgot the artist, like Hayward or something. Living Life in the Night.
Because part of the reason why I started the pod was because first of all, I want to give people a platform like you that are fucking badass, making impacts, doing great things. I also want to steer away from the negativity, dividing stuff. It's just so easy to be mad, angry, and rage bait online. I'd love to put some positivity out in the world, but part of the reason why I did that was because I still hoop around, I still shoot, but organized basketball, those days are over. I got the knees of a grandma, so this is part of the reason why I started the pod as well. Is that why what led you to the book as well? Kind of a new muse.
You were nice too at hooping, man. You had all around game. You were triple double, man. Real talk. Like you would rebound, you would pass, you score, you shoot. You would want the ball. You would want to be point guard and all that. You would
Yeah, that's what
want to.
people don't see. People see like a chubby 6'2" dude, and they don't know I got it, bro. They don't know.
You were a problem for sure. You were like a Latino LeBron, bro. You were just doing everything out there,
Get
just
out of
dominating.
here. Get out of here.
And this dude can really hoop, which was cool to see. Latino can hoop. And I don't really hoop anymore myself, and I actually got this shoulder injury that I'm really dealing with. I had a labrum tear, last slap two tear, and this is my shooting arm. I don't know if it's from thousands and thousands of shots I've taken over the years, but I recently tore it. I tore it not recently, a year ago, and I'm still trying to figure out how to heal it. And every time I try to shoot, I feel it, and like it can destabilize, which sucks because I'm a shooter. And so I'm like, I got to get this healing. But the reason why I wrote the book, and that turning point in my life is, yeah, I finished up my development phase. I think development phase is the first quarter of your phase, 0 to 25. That's where you're going and trying to go into yourself and figuring out the self discovery standpoint, and you're still growing. Your mind's still elevating and absorbing and figuring things out, and completely developing. And I finished up that coming of age phase. And so I felt it was time to document it, to learn from it, to reflect on it, and to share it because I felt there's a lot of lessons in there that people can learn from and navigate their own life trajectories. And now I'm 28. It took a few years to actually get the book rolling, but I put the coming of age phase on paper. And I try to stay away from anything that was like beyond my 25, 26 phase, because things happen too. And recently, in like 28, all that, they try to elevate it. But I wanted it to be that first quarter. This is quarter one. And this is how it went, and I'm able to really think about it because sometimes we just got to stop and think about it because we're always in motion. Sometimes the best motion is no motion, and putting the book down was that, and it was a big isolation journey, figuring out my comeback, and there was a lot of things happening in my personal life that opened up for a lot of personal time. And I had the nonprofit I was slowly stepping down from, so I was giving up responsibilities when I first started writing the book, and so I had more time from that. I was very accustomed to where I was working at the city of Long Beach. I was really good at my role, so I was able to put in like systems and structures where I didn't have to just grind it out crazy hours throughout the week and every day in that sense. So I had that system of, so I was able to set aside time outside of that. Um, and I also had a new environment, moved into a new place where I was able to have some like personal time to myself, and moved out on my own when I was 26, and because I moved out for college and I came back with my mom. And when I got back to Long Beach, I stayed on Long for a while and did my thing, and then 26 I moved out here in Long Beach, and so here in my own place, and now I've been here for the past couple of years, and so I opened up my own enclave, and then also I had a big relationship dynamic. I had a big breakup during that time, at 26, 27 range, a year and a half ago in a sense, and it was right at the time where I was like, man, what better time to lock in and write down my life's journey, especially breakups, what most people can relate to. A lot of people can relate to like really, really bad breakups, and we don't talk about it enough, but they're traumatic and they're hard and they're difficult. And it's one of the biggest common challenges that people deal with. Not everyone might not have been run over by a car or had something happen, a heart attack or stroke, but lots of people, have been through breakups and that sense and where everything's going on and trying to figure out what's next, and you're trying to transcend it too and trying to let go, but it's so difficult. And you got these like two cells, and one cell stepped in this way, other cell stepped in that way. But it opened up a lot of time for me, and despite it being really difficult, and when you spend it with yourself, it, you have to be careful because your mind can try to destroy you in those times too. But luckily, I had a mission, and the mission was to put this life's quarter on paper so people can hear about it and learn about it, and I can always share it. And this book will be passed down for generations, and my kids will see this book
You're
and their
timeless.
kids.
You're timeless now, man.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome. You're timeless. I'm probably gonna have my kids read this too. Shit. Probably gonna show my cousins out here in Mexico a bit of the book, but yeah. And then this is kind of not repetitive, but for people out there, because like I said, you're a doer. If I said, hey, I need this to be done, and I give it to you, I know you could do it. If for some people that are like a little hesitant about writing a book, getting their message out there, whether it be podcasting, writing a book, YouTube videos, um, how do you start that process? How was the process? What's a little, because I bet that's its own journey, its own experience within itself that you learn from too.
The best way to start this process is by failing, is by just giving it a shot and it not going well, and you learning from it, and you're like, okay, but now I know a little bit better. You got to fail from it. So you have to actually just try it. You have to fail from it and then fail fast. You learn from it, you pick yourself up, and you fix it, and you do it again. That's some of the best ways to try these things that you're hesitant on. All those times you're thinking about debating and back and forth, it's you're not doing anything during that time. And yeah, there's a time for reflection, all that, but when you're just all debate back and forth, hypotheticals, this and that, and let me keep learning and all that, you only do so much of that time to the point where the best way to learn is if you get on the bike and you ride the bike. You can't just be stuck reading books on bikes the whole time, or videos on YouTube about bikes, or thinking about what would happen if you get on the bike and fall off. And the best way to learn that is you jump on it. And so if someone's considering starting a podcast or writing a book, um, or doing something that's never been done before, which I love to encourage. Just try it out and fail fast, as fast as possible, so you can learn from it and you can build momentum off it. The idea of the book, I wish I started sooner. I wish I had this book out way sooner. Maybe 6 months ago in a sense, and if I started 6 months sooner, I could have had it out during that time. It would have been a nice time to have it there. And I was too much debating back and forth, too much just trying to learn and all that. Sometimes it's an excuse for inaction, and you have to decide when that reflection point ends, when that no motion, best motion in a sense, has an ending point. Because if not, you'll always be there, and the next thing you know, your life passes you by, just like that guy from ITT Tech commercial would say. And you look back and you're like, damn, I should have done that. Man, and we all have those moments, and the process is just trying to decrease them as much as possible and reduce them. So, if you want to write a book, just write something down and start putting it together and documenting things and outlining it. Don't worry about intricacies and how hard it is and all that, because then you're gonna get overwhelmed. Write some things down, and as you go, you'll learn a little bit more. Follow some authors. In my book too, at the end of it, I say how I wrote the book. I think this is the first book I've ever seen that's had that at the end of it, like what I did to write the book. I've read hundreds of books, and I read a book a week, and I've never seen someone write in it that this is how they wrote it. And I put it actually down, framework. And it's one way, but it's right there. It's literally there. And especially now with AI, the answer is there. You can hop on Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, whatever chatbots out there, and ask it, talk to it. What do you want to do? It's crazy some of the frameworks that it'll lay out for you, and it's like, damn, if I had this when I started my nonprofit, I would have saved lots of hours of research, and figured out things better. And AI helped me think about ideas that I can put together and how to form them in different areas, and just doing it, just like you did with the pod, man. I don't know how long you went from thinking about if you should do the pod or not, but I think the best thing for you to learn about it was from you just starting it.
Dude, yeah, I couldn't agree more. I wish, honestly, I wish I started this pod in college, but you know,
Bro, I
yeah.
was thinking that earlier today. I was like, damn, this is exactly 10 years from we were in college in the dorms. Shasta 3, Chico State, 18-year-olds, figuring things out in Sutter Hall, Ian Dining Hall. And I'm just like, think about things we did. And I was like, what if D-Man started the pod in there? Like, gee, that would be crazy.
Dude, I know yeah, especially when I was more worried about like I gotta be friends with everyone, like and I'd say my popularity was yeah.
Yeah, you were mad.
I should have started the pod then, but yeah, I was fun. I was having fun. I was a little distracted, and honestly, like you kind of mentioned, I'm my own biggest critic. I think it's a negative and a positive. You know what I mean? Because we played sports together. I don't know if you remember. If I'd miss a shot or if I'd make a turnover, I'd cuss myself out like, "Oh, you fucking dumbass!" Like, that was a shitty shot. Like I'm one of those weirdos that just talks to themselves. And then if you played football with me as well, if I threw an interception or a bad pass, I'd just be like yelling at myself, not my teammates. But yeah, I've always been like my own biggest critic, which has helped me kind of eliminate the outside noise. But it's also kind of made me wait 10 years to start a podcast, But I also think, yeah, it's a good time just again to put some positivity out there. But I think that's great advice. We played sports, so we've been in the film room. There's nothing wrong with failing. Failure. Uh, I say you get to fail. You get to fail once or twice, but you better make those meaningful failures. Um, but dude, so thank you so much for your time. I know it took a huge part of your Sunday. Get a little quick fire here. Some little some clip questions. So who are your three? Who are your top three LA, all LA rappers or artists?
Artists, so only in music.
Music, yeah.
Okay. In
Because
LA.
you guys are the mecca over there down in LA. So it could be rap, it could be anything.
Well, of course, I'm biased. I got in Long Beach, so I'm gonna say my Long Beach people for sure. Yeah, Vince Staples,
Hey,
a guy, and I met him. He came out to do an event with us for youth programs. Great music. Always love his music.
you met him? How's he like?
He's cool. He's exactly how you expect him. Like cool, calm, collective, and a humble dude that's very wise. You see it in his eyes, like, and this guy's really wise and really smart. And like another neighborhood kid, and that's what he is. He's from North Long Beach in a sense, and got to chop it up with him a little bit, and he came out to the event. So Vince Staples has to be up there, and Giveon has to be in there. And he came out to an event earlier this year. Partnership, the mayor's office is always the team that's bringing out these stars, and Giveon was cool too, real nice, and personality and sense, and he was little also shy too in a sense to see that. But he has a great story how he worked at Bubba Gum for 5 years, the little big shrimp house over here in Long Beach before he actually made it during like the pandemic in a sense. Um, and so I have to say those two, and another one I might say bias, and my guy Leota, his name's Leota, and artist name, and I went to Cabrillo with him. He's an up and coming artist, and he's the next one up, and he's putting out a lot of good music and content and area. Had a lot of memories with him, played basketball with him, so I'll bring it in there too. So Vince Staples, Giveon, and Leota, all are part of my top three.
Damn, no Snoop in there. I thought it was about to be the number one.
Everyone expects that. And when I went to Chico State, when I was in the hallways and I told people I'm from Long Beach, they were like, "Oh, Snoop Dogg, right?" Da, da, da. It helps to identify where you come from for sure. And he is the greatest artist in terms of attention that he's gotten from his work and popularity out of Long Beach for sure, 100%. And I love his music. I do like his music. With that said, I've always felt that Snoop Dogg could do more to support some of the neighborhoods in Long Beach. And we've tried to bring him out on multiple occasions, and he hasn't answered the call. And I'm not to say that he doesn't do anything because he does. He's revitalized the basketball court and a gym in Central Long Beach area at Martin Luther King Park. And he does a lot of giveaways, backpack giveaways, toy drives, and he has his football leagues and stuff. He supports a lot of younger athletes. He does do things, and I bet there's a whole bunch of things he's done that I don't know about too, that no one knows about. With that said, I haven't seen him invest in a way that's really completely changing some of the dynamics because he has the resources to uplift a neighborhood and to transform it 360. Because a lot of these problems we're dealing with, we know the solutions. We just don't have the funding and the energy and labor for them, but we know them. And I really think Snoop Dogg can focus on a half a square mile neighborhood, 10,000 residents, and completely change the infrastructure for how they live in and how they're doing. I think he can end gang violence in a small piece of neighborhood just with that. And he would have to partner with system change leaders and people know the work as well too. But with his attention, his popularity and funding, all he has an international icon. Everyone knows Snoop. He's everywhere. I can't go anywhere without seeing him on something. It's kind of crazy. But if he combines that, I think he can really change neighborhoods. And of course, I love his music and all that. But I just wish he would come back to actually figure out how to shift conditions, holding problems in place, things that have been around for too long. And some of the things he glorified, I don't think are the best. And I mentioned it in the book as well too. And there's a part I talk about that.
No, that's a good point. Especially after the Olympics, you kind of saw, how much popularity, how much, international knowledge he has. So yeah, that's a great point. I'm actually surprised to hear that he hasn't attempted. You see the football team, and you mentioned the basketball courts, but there's definitely a lot more room, that he could be doing. What about
Mhm.
your top five basketball?
Mhm.
Top.
I was thinking about it yesterday. It's the same top five for the past several years, uh, and in this order. It was Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Shaq. Those are the top five greatest of all time.
Yeah, I'd take that lineup for sure. You something I battle. I kind of know the answer. I'll tell you after, but is the 2001 Lakers, would they beat the 2017 Dubs Warriors?
2017 Dallas Warriors. Are those the ones that lost in the finals?
Shut up. Nah. That's the year. Same team. Yeah, the year after though. It's like we had
Yeah,
Cousins, we had DKD, Curry, Clay.
yeah. Damn, that's a tough one with Kevin Durant. That's a bad man. I think it depends in context. If they play in the game of 2001, I think the Lakers win. if they play in the game of 2017, I think the Dubs win for sure, no doubt. The sharpshooters, like they don't have a chance. But they play in that bully ball game. Who's gonna stop Shaq? Like it's barbecue chicken. It's like call it, man.
Yeah, I don't think I don't mean to sound like an old head. We are almost 30. But dude, people don't understand like we watched the later years of Shaq, you know what I'm saying? People don't understand how freaking dominant that dude was, you know what I mean? They literally had to change the rule book for him.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. But nah, that's a great answer, by the way. Um, yeah, I honestly lean the Laker route just because Shaq and I think the only defender we had was Draymond, and that's like you said, barbecue chicken for Shaq.
Yeah, you can't do anything about that. That's a wrap, man.
Again, thank you so much, brother, for your time. We'll wrap it up here soon. What are your handles? What is the the nonprofit handles? Your handles? Let's market this. Let's clip this.
Yeah, I'm everywhere on every platform. My last name, Mikil Soriano. Uh, all of them you can find me hanging out on the playgrounds of all these different social media handles. And of the nonprofit, it's Books and Buckets everywhere. They're there, doing their thing and supporting the local community. You can find them.
What's your sorry for interrupting. What's your Instagram handle and like all that they could find you, David McGill Soriano?
It's McGill Soriano, just my last name, McGill Soriano, McGillSoriano. I'm on every platform with that username.
Oh yeah, and then I'll be marketing it, and then this is gonna be a clip too, a little trailer. So for the people that don't know you, judging a book by its cover, what is one thing you want them to know about your book? Why should they read your book?
This book might go down as one of the greatest books you haven't read, and it's a book you're gonna look back on and reference, and it's written in a way that is different than every book beforehand, and and written by someone who's read hundreds of different books and seen different ideologies, and took them and made it into its own unique way, its own craft and culture of it all. And you're gonna actually gain something tangible. This isn't just a hoorah rah book. You're gonna really learn something about it that you can apply and put into action.
Dude, I completely agree. It's like you mentioned, not just the memoir, but even how you start the book, like, hey, there's gonna be some grammatical errors, the lingo, there's going to be some lingo you might not understand because that's just the authenticity. And without that authenticity, your game plan, all that combination is just magical. New York bestseller, New York Times bestseller. I'm betting.
Oh,
But thank you so much, brother. We're gonna have you back. We'll love to have you back, brother. Thank you so much for your time.
nah, my man, D man, thank you. Thank you for featuring the book, man. Neighborhood Kid, people got to tap in. Big time book. I enjoyed it so much. And who would have known 10 years ago you wrote up to us 18-year-old ambitious young men just trying to have a good time in the dorms, telling them, hey, 10 years from now, y'all two gonna hang out and hop on a pod together and talk about your journeys and everything that life's going on, things that y'all created and put together. And you're a creator, you're creating. And I think everyone should create their own business or their own brand or their own book, whatever it is, their own pod. Everyone should create. And I think right now we're in this cycle with the vast majority of people are consumers and we're just consuming, consuming, consuming. And we see it, in the conspicuous capitalist consumption culture. And we're also seeing it in just the information overloads. Everyone's consuming and always, you have to pull that back. And it's not to say don't consume because I do consume myself, but I also create and my energy, whatever it is. And remember that we can do stuff too. We have access to so much information and things and content that we forget to create and to entertain ourselves in different ways to draw a painting and create a painting or to put together a map or a drawing or something that's your own or your own stuff because we're always consuming stuff of the the others, the 1% or the 10%, or then we're just consuming, consuming. Try to just bring it back just a little bit and create a little bit more, and in different senses. And and everyone was watching the fight yesterday, and I heard and you told me Canelo lost, and uh, I didn't get to watch the fight, and I was working on the book and some of the plans and all that, and I was creating. It's not to say I don't watch fights and all that because I do, but don't be afraid when there's a big thing going on and everyone's consuming and watching it to say, I can't do it right now because I got to create or I want to create for those things. You can also create because you're watching a couple people fight and put on a show that they're making money off of that they created, and you're uplifting their life. And yeah, you gain some enjoyment of it, camaraderie of it too. But you can be only so much of a fan of others, and you need to be a player of the life too, not just a fan. You need to go play your own games in this life that we have to offer. And so I'm so grateful we were able to create here today. Man, D Man from Chico State.
Dude, David Bird, the legend, you're a role model, man. You're making an impact, and the impact is definitely being shown. I just wanted to thank you for being you. Thank you for giving me the time. Fucking 2 hours already. I was like, oh my God, bro. You know, I was,
Crazy.
I was having such a good time, but no, thank you, brother. I really appreciate